Hey, what is up guys? It's Jack here and welcome back to another Jurassic World Evolution 2 video. Now in this one, we decide to make our mini novel Sorna. This was suggested by Amoga over in my Discord. If you guys want to join it, you can click the link in the description or you can go to the cards in the top right. Also, Jurassic World Evolution 3 is coming out pretty soon and I plan to live stream and upload a lot on that game. Obviously, naturally. So if you guys do find my content appealing, please don't forget to leave a like and don't forget to subscribe. If you click the notification bell as well, you'll be up to date with my live streams and whenever my videos go up. I will be posting a lot that week. Anyways guys, I hope you guys do enjoy this video and let's get to it. Alright. So welcome guys. So I already decided to do the layout of this map. I didn't record it because I thought I was, but you know, accidents happen. So I ended up using the grid layout that I used the last time for the Lost Island and for a few of my other builds. And yeah, so you can see here that looking at the map that's on the screen right now, you can see the different pathways, the river, the mountain range, and you can see that I pretty much did it the exact same. So what we do here is we just lay it out and we decide where we want to go with it. So there are a lot of pathways in this, which I wasn't really assuming there would be for some reason, but I liked the idea that there were game trails as well. So initially what I did with the game trails was I decided to make it like this, like the grassy dirt, so it could look different than the pathways that that engine would have actually added. So after we ended up doing that, we wanted to do our mountain range so we can kind of get a grasp of how the rest of the area was going to look like after, or not after, before. What the rest of the area was going to look like before I decided to do terrain work in the middle, in the valley area, and the actual build, and then realized that I had to mess with the mountains a lot. Now, I forget that we're not using modded, so I had to stick with these vanilla terrain tools, and it was kind of annoying. There was a lot of times where I wanted to just go into my modded and just use the terrain tools, but I kept it chill, guys. I stuck with vanilla. I struggled. It's okay. Only a few days before we can actually get our Jurassic World Evolution 3 terrain tools. But yeah. Anyways, we just end up going around the terrain and just making our mountains. Now, the important part of this was to not make it all the exact same height. There were a couple of my builds in the past that I made at the exact same height all throughout the build, and it looked pretty hideous. Now, I didn't know how wide these mountains were going to be, so I kind of gave them some generic width. Now, the only area in this map that I knew where the mountains were larger was towards this area that I'm working on right now, and it was weird. I didn't like specifically how the mountain range was in the map itself, that Emoga posted. It didn't really give a lot of detail for the mountain range or any terrain details at all, which, you know, it's whatever. But it was just annoying to kind of figure it out because I didn't want to spend half the build like I've done with the Rebirth Island, like I've done with the Jurassic World one. So I didn't want to struggle with it too much. But towards the end of this felt more of like a sanctuary. And it was very, very nice. So yeah, we're kind of making our mountain range, and I was trying to remember that this is surrounded by water, and so I don't really realize it here, but I'm kind of making the Jurassic Park Hawaii style mountains, and I'm like, oh wait a second, I have to flatten all of this out because of the water that's going to be placed here. And also I didn't know where the mountain ends and if there was beaches on the other side, because in the map it only shows mountains all throughout the area. Now, I did decide to do a beach where the flat area is, in between the mountain ranges right there. I decided to do a beach instead of some mountains because I didn't want to have to deal with making a cave or a tunnel through the mountain ranges, as well as the fact that the area in between where the rivers were going to go through the tunnels, those were not going to really work well because the mountains, if you put a river between the mountains, there is a large amount of area that stays open between or on the riverbanks itself. And so it just wasn't going to look right because those mountains wouldn't have actually been, not even, I don't think they would have even been like 10 feet tall. So it was kind of not really a good thing to do. So I decided to make beaches instead. I think it turned out very well. I can't wait to do this build again in Jurassic World Evolution 3 and actually be able to make tunnels made out of rocks and stuff. And yeah, I'm glazing the hell out of the game, but you know, you'll oh, guys, come on. But yeah. Anyways, I'm just texturing the mountains here with our different rock textures. I didn't really go crazy with this one like I've done in the past. This was more of it felt like a sanctuary. It really felt like a sanctuary, and it was very nice. Again, it's been like about 15 years since I actually read the novel for this one, and I honestly don't remember a lot. Before I do it again in Evolution 3, I will be reading the novel. Because this won't be out for like another year, probably. Our first build for Evolution 2 will be Jurassic World because I want to make it special to me. And I don't want to wait until November like I did the last time. So I will be trying to upload Jurassic World Remake for Evolution 3 the Thursday the game comes out, so 2 days after. Hopefully, I'll be able to do it. I'll be spending a ton of time in that game. I already took time off of my internship to actually start working there. To start working on the game, you know, when the game comes out. So it'll be so fun. Anyways, here what we do with our tree line is we try to make it lower than the mountain range. So it looks like the trees don't extend onto the mountain range. This is something that we've done in mostly all of our builds that were considered remakes because we wanted the mountain range to actually look taller. Sorry if you guys hear the motorcycle in the background. I live next to a highway, so it's just loud sometimes. Anyways, the next step we do is we wanted to actually decide on the terrain for the rest of the map. There's supposed to be a mountain wherever those rocks are, and I'm like, okay, so if there's a mountain here, then the rest of it has to be elevated. Also, by elevating this whole area of the map, it makes it that I can elevate the mountains surrounding the map a lot higher. So I went ahead and did that, and I also started to think about how this was going to look with everything else. So with this part, I decided to just fill in, you know, kind of like a coloring game, fill in the area up here, and then I decided to slope the terrain in ways that it actually would work with their build. Now, I didn't want to separate certain parts too much. I didn't want to make too much of a height difference between different areas of the map. Like right here, I didn't want there to be a huge mountain next to the river, like immediately next to the river. So I went along and I made like around 4 or 5 different terrain heights throughout the entire build. And so I worked with that. Now here you can see me figuring out the valley and the mountain range where, honestly, the larger mountain range, because, you know, it goes up higher and then it stays lower, but then it's also lower than the lower part, which again doesn't really make sense when I say it out loud. So it was just a lot to take into consideration here because I needed to make sure that it blended well with the slope and that it wasn't going to slope in a way that layering of the slope would be too much of a slope. How many times I said slope there? Leave it in the comments. But yeah. So again, I'm messing with the terrain on the mountains again. The mountains are something that always ends up changing throughout this build because I just didn't really like them. I should have probably extended outboard more into the watery area, but that's something for next time. It's like what I said with most of my builds. I learned a lot the first time I do something, the second time I do something. That's why I did Jurassic World for a lot of times, for so many times. Every single time that I did it, I learned something new, and it made it so much better than the next time I did it. So you'll also be seeing a lot when Evolution 3 comes out. I know I'm plugging my channel a lot here, but it's my channel. I can do what I want. Imoga, screw you. But yeah, over here I'm making the area for where the trailers are going to be and the game trail for that. So I just made a large hill where the mountain goes up to, and I also do another creative liberty moment right here where the mountain, I made it that the trail doesn't do like an S curve, like a double S curve, or I guess a double U curve, a U and then a reverse U curve. Instead, I made it an S curve because it was just a spacing issue. Other than that, I don't think I'd make a lot of other different changes. But yeah, so I'm just sloping out the rest of this, making sure that this could just be used with the forest instead of just putting like rocks down or leaving it open. But yeah, here I fixed the sloping on this hill for the trail, so it actually kind of looks good. And then I extend the rocks to actually paint the area instead of just leaving the placer markers there. I use the paint to lay out certain things. So you can see that's what I'm doing here. Okay. Then I went to go eat right here. And so I took a little bit of a break and then I decided to add more of a mountain. Now this mountain does turn to a hill at some point where when I add trees and stuff, because I didn't want it to be too prominent. So you can see here that I'm starting to place my trees, and then I leave it that the trees just stay there. But I do change it again after I place, I think, this part. And then I place some of the trees on the top because I realize that I can't really hide this without it making it look weird as I'm trying to do some vegetation work on the sides. So instead, I just decide to extend the ground a little bit more and then bring more trees along the edge of the cliff. Same thing right here. And then, I'm seeing I can run out of space here. And then, so there goes our mountain right there. Over here, I just add more trees. This is just me adding trees. There's a lot of trees being placed in this one, so I'm probably not going to talk over this. But a lot of this was vegetation maintenance work. That's what this build felt like, and it was kind of nice. Yeah, we're just placing our trees like how the map has our trees. All right. So for our 2 helicopter landing sites, again, it's been so long since I read the book. I probably should have read the book before I did this, to be honest. But for our 2 helicopter landing sites right here, it didn't really have anything specific for me. So it was kind of weird that I just decided to just do an open field. That's what I feel like a helicopter landing site would be unless it was actually marked as a building. Um, that I feel like that's how it would look like, just an open area of land, like how like in Primitive War or something, you know, where they land in the helicopter. It's just a large open area of land. That's just the forest. You know, I wasn't expecting anything really important with that area, so it was just there. The lab and the village area is a lot more different though. We're gonna get to it at some point soon. But I do change our cliff area right here to be closer to the pathway because I noticed that in the map it is closer to the pathway. And I decided to make the pathway a little bit smaller because I forgot that we were working with like, I think the third tier pools for them. Third tier. The radius, the third tier radius, the third one, the third button that you click. I don't know what it's called. Selection. The third selection. Um, I'm a I'm a front end developer and I don't know what this is called. But yeah. Anyways, we just add more trees. We start adding the palms because, you know, we want more variety with our area. That's where we work with. And you can see that the map is pretty much almost done. It's pretty nice. Okay. So we add more trees and we try to work with this to give it an area for our lab. You can see that I turn a lot of this into the game trail pathway that we have. Because I didn't realize that this wasn't dirt and it was just a game trail too. I didn't know that the game trail went through the lab area. Now I'm trying to determine what buildings I want to use. And I'm thinking about it. This is the Lost World. Why not use the Lost World build set? I know this is for the movie and not the novel. But yeah, I just wanted to use this one because it looked a lot better. And I didn't want to use the thatch buildings because I really like the metallic like brown that we have on these buildings. So I'm over here placing these. It takes me a few to determine what I want to do and for the placements for these buildings because I didn't know if I wanted to make it grand or if I wanted it to be just a village. So I placed this building a ton of times. And then I decided to go with, you know, making it look important like a village. And so I do add some pathways, but I leave it light because I knew that these pathways weren't gonna go anywhere else but here. With our science center though, this science center, I wanted it to be somewhere close, but I knew the village was gonna be somewhere close here. Also, I wanted it to be somewhat of a walk. So as I place the few buildings that we are placing now, I do end up deleting them in a second. Because I just didn't like where they were. So it felt too formal the way it was. So as I was placing the ranger station, I decided to place it back behind the control center. And so I didn't want two helipads next to each other. So I placed the, what is that? The expedition center. I placed the expedition center towards the game trail area. Then I kept the helipad on the outer side of the facility area. And then I moved the science center across the pathway that's going to end up being the game trail in a second. Okay, then I just leave a whole bunch of vegetated area right here. And I decided that we wanted to add the Rex nest. Now the Rex nest, I'm not using mods for this, so I had to improvise with our eggs. I think it turned out pretty well, except for the fact that the eggs were a bit big because they were the Mediterranean rocks, but we moved them in a way so they looked like eggs. So I can't wait for Evolution 3 so I can actually make this and put that there. Yeah. We decided to use rocks. I usually forget about rocks, but Jurassic World Belgium has me thinking about rocks sometimes. So I'm placing rocks down, just making it decorative a little bit. And yeah. So we do move another one of these buildings, our staff centers, somewhere close by. I didn't want it to be too separated, but I also didn't want it to be too close. I moved that game trail again. and then I decide to make some dirt paths, and then between those dirt paths I decide to actually put down some pathways, so it looked like there was dirt underneath the pathways. And again, more trees, more rocks, more placeable items, some decorative trees. I can't wait again. I'm glazing the game again. Can't wait for Evolution 3 so we could have different variety of jungle trees, of the larger jungle trees, because they were really annoying that I couldn't actually place those. But yeah. Anyways, these pathway, I didn't know if I wanted to put a pathway or not. I just didn't like seeing so many red icons on my screen or on the top. You'll see in a second that that didn't really matter towards the end because we placed down a couple of buildings that we couldn't connect because we didn't have like any sort of invisible pathing or a trail or anything like that. Right now, this is what we are done with, and so as you can see, I'm like kind of looking at it now. The red icons, they're not it. Those red icons are not it. I'm happy that I ended up placing our entrance. But yeah. For this area down here, we wanted to put a lot more trees, almost to the point where it covers the pathway. Okay. Then again, yeah, we placed on our arrival point. I didn't know where to put this, and I didn't know if I wanted the thatch building from Jurassic Park. So I decided to put it on the side, connect it, but also hide it as well. I wanted this to look cool in the center, but it just looked uneven and it was going to make me throw up. So I decided not to do that. And instead, I decided to just redo the entire pathway and try to make it look somewhat similar. Okay. After like a few attempts at trying to do it like that. Okay. After this, we put vegetation around it and then we placed some trees down from our decoration tool because we wanted to make it just look hidden. We didn't want this to be seen because I don't like the thatch again. The thatch just doesn't really work in this vibe since it's the only building with thatch. I really hope in the next one, in Jurassic World Evolution 3, we are able to make our own arrival points. I'm assuming we can. I'm assuming we can pretty much make everything in that game since we can make viewing galleries. But we'll wait and see. Yeah, and then I start placing a whole bunch of trees to make it look like kind of worn and like time has passed. Because I'm assuming we didn't want it to look all clean and open and all that stuff. So we placed on a whole bunch of trees throughout the entire, I guess, facility. This is the facility area. But yeah, placed on a bunch of trees. All right, cutting to our T-Rex nest. We decided to make this kind of like the nest from The Lost World, the movie, not the novel. And I wanted it to be in the ground a little bit more, and I also wanted it to be surrounded by rocks. Now, I didn't know how I wanted to make the nests in this because I am not someone that is very big into paleontology or anything to do with like the living of species from years and years and years ago. So it just, was something that I didn't really know what to do here. So I just placed a whole bunch of rocks, kind of giving it some cover. And, I decided to use our Mediterranean rocks as eggs because they were the closest thing to look like eggs. So you can see I'm placing a whole bunch of trees down because, me with trees. If there's one thing I'm known for, it's either trees or tables and chairs. I think I probably got away from the tables and chairs. That was more of a 2021, 2022 thing. But as of last year and the beginning of this year, it was more so trees or rocks, maybe. Maybe trees, maybe rocks, I don't know. But you can see that I'm looking at different things to like use for eggs. So I ended up with the Mediterranean rocks and I put them in certain different angles to make it look like they were just laying upright. I wish I could do some like nest thatching for it, but or baby dinosaurs, but Okay, so across from this we have our shed, Now, there's not a lot of buildings that I could use that were in the theme. Honestly, I probably could have gone with the bunker. It just looked a little bit too concretey, and I didn't want to go with thatch either. So instead, I did go with our staff center again because it just looks the best in this area. I think I used it, yeah, for the boat house as well. But we attach it, we put some vegetation around it. I didn't know if I did this or earlier or later, but yeah, we put some more trees, some rocks, kind of make it look a little bit like just out there more. A lot of our area is pretty much done, so that's nice. Now for our landing pad, I didn't want it to just be an open field, so I decided to patch the little pathways in a little bit more here, make it look like the game trail path. This is where it starts turning to be more of the game trail. Oh, yeah, right. And then I try to make the rivers look a little bit deeper and to get rid of the dirt or the sand because it didn't feel right that the sand was this far inland. So I wanted to just make the rivers look deeper. So that's what I did here. And then I do it eventually to the entire rest of the map where the water is going to be. I'm probably going to cut that part out because it's just me going around the map, doing the same thing with the dirt, doing the same thing with the water. But yeah. Most of the rest of this is just placing down trees. Occasionally I place down a building, but it's just trees and rocks and all that stuff. Yeah. Wow, pretty much like 30 minutes after that one, I ended up deciding on a boathouse. I didn't really know how I was going to do the boathouse because I wanted it close to the water, and I wish I could have put it like over layering the water, but sadly I couldn't, so I just stuck with the staff center again because that was like just the best thing I could probably think of. Then I decided that, oh, and I forgot that there was a pathway there in between these trees, so I added that as well, and yeah, I just do the rest of this valley. Again, it's mostly trees, shrubbery, vegetation the dinosaurs can eat. That's the rest of this build, guys. So I'm not gonna cut it, or I'm not gonna end it like soon, but I will just say that this is pretty much just me placing down trees. I'm probably gonna cut it. I don't think you guys want to see me place down trees for 20 minutes, do you? 20 minutes on 3 times speed? I'm just trying to account for the dinosaurs needing water and needing food, but you can pretty much see that that's gonna go to like down the hole. That's pretty much gonna go down the hole. When you see me do my park tour, because a Compsognathus ended up dying somehow, but it was still alive, so it glitched out, and yeah, the whole thing was just But yeah, we're gonna cut this. I just placed on a whole bunch of vegetation. You'll see in a second. Oh, one thing I forgot though was that I actually made this raptor nest. I made it the same way as the T-Rex nest, but instead I added more eggs to it and I put it in like a fieldy area. Yeah, there's nothing really much different. It was just the same egg things, but I put more eggs because raptors are hacks, and from all the eggs I've seen in like any of these movies, they've all had multiple different types of eggs. I didn't want to put like vegetation on the eggs themselves, and it was really hard to work with this because of our vegetation tool being like large, as well as our unvegetation tool being larger, so it was just annoying. So I ended up putting a whole bunch of cover over it. But yeah. Oh, trailers, right. So again, this is unmodded, so we didn't really have much to work with for the trailers. I know I could have probably put the green trailers, but I wanted it to look like an actual building you could enter. So instead I went with these for trailers. I know they're white, but you know, it's okay. I didn't want to put too much stress hiding these things. So I decided to just put them along the game trail. This is where they were pretty much overlooking the cliff. We have them overlooking the cliff. I decided to put dirt down because, you know, dirt, right? We love dirt, guys, right? But yeah, that's pretty much this. You can see that I'm just looking over and all that stuff. And then I remembered that we have to put the high hide. Now, I wanted to either use this or the zip line. I'm kind of enjoying this more because I like the cage look on the top. And getting that cinematic shot that was in the intro, that was pretty dope. I really did like that. I really did like that. But yeah. Anyways, this is me doing mountain work. It's just me loping up the mountain, making them as tall as they can be. And I do this for like 10 to 15 minutes, so we're gonna cut this. Alright, so since we're now reaching the end of this video, I wanted to put these like little islands on the outside, kind of like what we did for our rebirth island. So I wanted to do this here. I didn't really put so much terrain into this. I wanted this to just be just there because I didn't like how open the area was with the water. I pretty much just surrounded the rest of this area with dirt and water, by the way, if you guys haven't seen yet. Obviously, there's water there and there's a whole bunch of dirt. I just put dirt down and put water over the dirt, while the dirt was under the water, just to give it some more depth. And I ended up putting the biosyn fences, invisible fences, to keep the dinosaurs in and from going over and drinking the water, because that would have been really annoying to deal with, because these dinosaurs were already annoying to deal with because they ended up going out of their territories because they had no reason to be in them because, I don't know, nature. But yeah, anyways, that is pretty much it. You can see that I'm just working a little bit more on the vegetation on the sides of the mountains, trying to make it look a little bit more blended in. But yeah, other than that, that's pretty much it for this build. All right, so let's go ahead and do the tour of this build. Now, this was a decent amount of work to do, but it also felt like it wasn't. I don't know if I'm in the mindset for Jurassic World Evolution 3, or if, you know, it's just this game has gotten easier over time. I don't know. But yeah, so there are a few things that are different from what the map looks like. Just a few. Now, of course, we're using unmodded features, so a lot of these buildings are not connected to pathways, or they're just default prefabs that we have, right? So we'll talk about that in a second. But the first thing I want to do is I wanted to say that this was fun to make. I can't wait to do this in Evolution 3. I'm going to be doing all the novelizations, the movie parks, and all that stuff. So, you know, I can't wait for that. The first one we'll be doing is Jurassic World, obviously, because that's a big one. And we'll be doing that pretty much that first week Evolution 3 comes out, so it's going to be so cool. But if we take a look at the map, actually take a look at the big map, you can see that it kind of looks like it. There are some sizing issues that I had to take into consideration, specifically this bottom part, because it does go up a lot, and I couldn't do that on this map specifically. Oh, you're dead for some reason. Huh. I'm pretty sure the combi is glitched. I'm pretty sure if I go to it, he'll still be alive. Yeah, I don't know why they do that. But yeah, so this map, yeah, so you can see that there's some differences in the map, but I think it turned out pretty good for, you know, all things considered. Now, if we take a look at this part of the map, you'll see that this isn't actually beaches on it, it's caves. Now, I didn't want to even attempt to do caves, just primarily because I knew it was gonna be hell because of how the Innocent Huba map and the BIOS and Sanctuary map went. We had to make the Dimension Enclave, and we had to make like the large mountains with a whole bunch of things like rivers between them for the Rebirth Island. So it was just going to be hectic, and I didn't really want to do it, especially with small space it is in between right here. And I just thought it would be so much cooler to have a beach. So that's like pretty much the only creative liberty that I took throughout this build. I was gonna take a lot more, but it actually turned out pretty good. So it was interesting that that's pretty much the only big piece that I cut from the build, from the map. Other than that, let's go ahead and do some locations from the book. So it's been a while since I read the book, approximately 10 years at least, maybe like 15. It's probably 15. When I was like in 5th grade, that's when I read the book last. So it's been a while, but we have a couple of locations, right? So we're gonna go from the bottom of the river that, up towards the lab. But yeah. So, anyways, over here, what we have is we have our boathouse. Now, the boathouse was originally going to be right here, but I realized that that probably was not gonna look good. Um, and I wish I could put the boathouse over the water. That would be so amazing. But again, limitations. Um, so this is gonna be considered our boathouse right here. It's right on the river, and it's close to the shore. And the river goes all the way around through the valley. But past the boathouse, right, we have a path. The path takes us to a couple of places. So we have a helicopter landing place right here, and we have where Dodgson lands right here. Again, these are just large open areas that don't really have any like significance to the build. I know there are things in the novel, but you know, a lot of this is just buildings or just open space, which is nice because if you take a look at the map again, it's all one ecosystem, which is what I wanted it to be. And it feels more like a sanctuary than Biosyn was. Especially, even with our compies dying, but that's not my fault. Mhm. But anyways, if we continue onward, we'll go up here, Diego spot. Uh, we have the game trails. We have further up here, we have, you know, shed, the T-Rex nest. For the T-Rex nest, I decided to use these white rocks for eggs since we're not using any mods for this. Pachycephalosaurus just randomly here. It's gonna end up starving. Bro, you need ground leaf. What are you doing all the way over here? So this is my issue with like a lot of the stuff. Okay, let's go get some food. That'll be okay. And then you're just there. But yeah, that's our nest right there that our Pachycephalosaurus just randomly walked into. We go up here or go along the side right here. That's crazy that you're over here. Um, we have like a little ridge right here that goes up the mountain. Then we have our trailers. Again, this is unmodded, so I couldn't really use any assets that weren't a part of the game already. So I just thought these look like trailers as is. And they're over the edge of this cliff, and you can see down into the valley. Really good view. Really good view. Like, just thumbnail worthy, Okay, if we continue down the path though, both paths, we end up reaching here. This is our lab area and our village. So I wanted to use the Lost World type of building style. I try to stay away from the thatch buildings That's why this helipad is hidden a little bit, because I didn't like the fact that there's thatch, and then for all of these builds we had some like metal, right? Metal, 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 metal. You know, this is just concrete, but you know, it's not really following the theme. Oh God, it's not really following the theme for this. But yeah, so we have our labs, we have our response facilities, staff centers, hatcheries, you know, all of the buildings that we need to make it look like it's an actual facility. Then if we go this way, we have another path that leads down here and down into the valley. This isn't really anything, it's just like anything noteworthy. It's just where all of our dinosaurs are pretty much placed. So we have some Parasaurolophus, we have some Triceratops, some Pachycephalosaurus, some Apatosaurs. Like, look at them, they're cute. We have some Velociraptors just randomly roaming. Believe that's a majority of our species. We have some Carnotaurs walking around. There you go, there they are. Carnotaurus. Right. And then this is our raptor nest. You know, same type of deal, but a little bit different. We decided to do 2 sets of eggs. I know that the eggs are kind of huge. Are there any other dinosaurs? Oh, the Myosaur. Myosaur. That was right here just a second ago, but I have no clue where they are. There you go. Right there. So yeah. That's pretty much it for all those species. Oh, obviously, T-Rex. So we have 2 Rexes here. We have one here, and the other one was somewhere right here last I checked. Where are they? Rex. Where are they? That's the one we just saw. Am I blind? Oh, the other one's right here. We have our second one right here, eating from a ground feeder. But yeah. Anyways, those are our species. If we continue down the valley, we have our high hide. Yeah, I used a viewing platform just because we didn't really have any sort of building like the high hide. And I thought, you know, overlooks the trees, which is the whole point of it, right? It's supposed to be hiding somewhat within the trees. I thought that was kind of cool. Again, we have all this is unmodded. So we have a whole bunch of these buildings that don't have connections. But yeah, other than that, we do have our game trails. So we have one of them right here, going up to here, and then, you know, through the facility comes back around right here. To our nest area. I kind of filled this up a little bit too much, but it comes through here to the nest. But we also have the one that goes up here to the trailers, you know, and it comes back down here. So there's a lot there. I really liked this build because there was a lot of just vegetation. All right, like you can see the random buildings, but like it's focused on the terrain, which is really nice. I do wish I could make the mountains larger. I almost went into what is it? Modded to use the terrain tools just for the mountains, but I chose I temptation, you know, temptation. So I avoided that. I used the one vanilla ones, so that's why they're so small, the mountains. But yeah, anyways, I hope you guys did enjoy the video. Please don't forget to leave a like. Please don't forget to subscribe. This is our Tuesday video. We'll be back on Thursday with another. I don't know what we're doing because I kind of changed the schedule up. And we're doing specifically our Thursday videos on Wednesday, but as live streams. So, you know, whole thing. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you guys all have a good day. So I will see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.